Hawaii.
When?
Oh.
He's gone to Hawaii for 4 months.
I think everybody in Lisbon has been to Hawaii in the past.
Not me, but yeah.
We are live.
Son lives in Florida. I mean Hawaii, so he had an opportunity to go for 4 months. Things you have to look forward to, you mean?
Yeah, right.
We just have 1 minute until 6 o'clock, and that'll start the live stream also. I mean the Zoom meeting.
Zoomy-doo.
And there we are.
I'll just keep my eye open for
Maybe
Councillor Fellows.
he can catch up.
Right? Wanna start?
Okay, I'm going to open this workshop. That's,
Do you want me to take roll call and we'll do Pledge of Allegiance now and then we can go into the meeting right afterwards?
Sure.
As long as it's 7 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay.
You want to do the pledge first?
Yes.
Tell me what the I pledge
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great.
Councillor Kane?
Here.
Councillor Fellows?
Here.
Councillor Keller?
Here.
Councillor LaRochelle?
Here.
Councillor Lunt?
Here.
Councillor Moore?
Here.
Councillor Robichaud?
Here.
All right. So the first item is our workshop. We have our guest, Garrett Mason, County Commissioner.
Garrett, thank you very much for coming
Thank you for having me.
and maybe answering a couple of questions that council has regarding the county and what the county can do for us.
Yeah. Do you want me to just give a couple comments?
Yes, please.
And then
Yeah.
you guys can,
Sure.
you can batter me away. Yes.
So speak directly into the mic. It's not a very good pickup mic, but it's good
Okay.
if you're pointed at it. There you
Okay.
go.
I will make sure I do that.
Great.
Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Garrett Mason, and I am the County Commissioner for District 4, which is Lisbon, Sabattis, and Wales. Just a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me, I've lived in Lisbon my whole life. My family's been here for about 200 years, and I'm very proud to call Lisbon home. I've had the honor of serving in the legislature, in the state senate for Androscoggin and Kennebec County. Obviously, those districts included Lisbon. I spent 8 years up there, 4 of those as majority leader. In 2018, I ran for governor, and the best thing that never happened to me was I didn't win. So, it was a great experience, but I'm happy to be right where I am right now. I live on Route 9, where my family's lived for a very long time, and with my wife Rebecca, my daughter Piper, who is going to be 3 next month, and we're just very, very happy to call Lisbon home. But I was appointed to the county commission about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. Our former commissioner left and took a job in Iowa, and I applied for the job and got it. So won re-election in November to finish out the 4-year term. So I have 2 years left on my term. I'll be up again in 2 years. The county government is very different, not only in just here in Maine, but it's different from the way that counties operate really all over the country. Typically in other states, counties are very important. They run the roads, they run the schools, they run basically everything. The sheriff's departments are really the chief law enforcement officer of the county, not really the town, unless you're a big city. But in Maine, it's really a facilitator for state government. So we don't have any health department. We don't have any, any of the things that you might see in other states. But we do perform some very important functions. Obviously, the sheriff's office. The sheriff is a constitutionally mandated role in the Constitution of Maine. So that's obviously housed in the county offices. We take care of deeds. So that's obviously, when it comes to private property, very important. We handle probate. the good and the bad of probate, both adoptions and deaths and really everything in between. So we handle a lot of the services that the town might be a little bit too big for the town and a little too small for the state is probably the best way to put it. But that's kind of an overview. There is a lot going on at the county right now. I will tell you, in comparison to serving in state government, to serving in county government, I've never served in town government before, but it's a lot more controversial, believe it or not, on these levels than it is on the state level. So we've definitely had our share of dust-ups. I'm sure you can read about those in the paper. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the county right now. Probably the biggest one, and I'll just touch on the elephant in the room, is the Center Street property that the county bought last year. That is an ongoing negotiation with the city of Auburn. That is, in my opinion, a very good opportunity for the county to replace very, very old infrastructure and, quite frankly, hazardous health conditions for some of our officers. I would invite any of you to come on a tour of the building and see the buildings that we are trying to replace, and then look at what we could have over on Center Street. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that building as well. But I know you all had some questions, so I don't want to take up the time talking, but I am happy to be here, and you can feel free to call on me anytime. I'm happy to come and speak to you whenever you like. So with that,
Thanks.
anything you'd like to know?
Thanks. Vern, we'll start with you.
Appreciate you coming in, and to be honest with you, I've been serving on town government for a long time, but this is really the first opportunity we've had a county commissioner to come sit with us to talk to us, which is actually, that says a lot, right?
Good.
And to be honest with you, we've actually, in past years, had people that represent us, even on the finance part of it, and we've actually requested them to come in and speak to us, and we've never even had that opportunity. They've actually just been too busy and not had an opportunity to come in. So it's good to actually think that we have some communication with the county, and especially at a commissioner level. That's awesome. A lot going on. I do realize that the Center Street property, it's definitely easy to follow through that and all the ups and downs, but definitely change is hard, right? People look at things and they don't really see change as a easy process, but
Yes.
as time goes on, I'm sure it'll be fine. One of the things I sent a question in for you that the biggest thing that seems so we've butted heads with the county over the years is the dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have our own dispatch, which is in-house, which serves our community, which is, to me, the best that we can get. You actually have the county dispatch, and you actually have LA 911, which over the years have actually kind of gone back and forth trying to figure out if they need two or one, and thought about merging. And were you there for any of the discussion that past year when they were talking about possibly taking over the other? And
So that happened literally right before I got there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. I know kind of about what happened,
Yeah.
but that's been. I mean, my goodness, that's been an ongoing conversation for I honestly think decades.
It has,
yeah. Even back when the state wanted to create two PSAPs, one in Augusta and one up north somewhere. So it's an ever-evolving bag of tricks.
Yep, and I wasn't sure if you were. I know that was kind of in that area you came through, and I didn't know if you actually had any more insight on that. I mean, I talked to our chief today, and I know the county's actually working on helping us do some of our, IT management, I guess, information-wise and stuff. So that's been supported some, which I think they have some money for that, which is really good. Just my question was just on dispatch, where you thought that was going, and would that be moved over to the new building if that was to happen?
That's the plan. Obviously that's all pending in front of the city of Auburn. But that one of the reasons, and I'll give you a little bit of background on the building itself. The opportunity to buy the Evergreen Subaru dealership when it came up it wasn't just, oh, that looks good, we should do that. That was part of a 5-year study. So even before that building came up for sale, and before it was even known that it would come up for sale, that building was one of 3 that was selected in the city of Auburn that would be an ideal facility and place for county government, either being the sheriff's office, or the county government, or everything all in one. That site was the number one selection for where the county should be. So when that came up, and with the infusion of ARPA funds, it was really a no-brainer. When you put on top of that the fact that it came with income-producing properties, that those income-producing properties are still on the tax rolls at the City of Auburn, and the county pays those taxes, it's nearly revenue neutral right now. So it's not costing the taxpayer barely anything at all, and it's an ideal location. One of the reasons that it's an ideal location is because it's on Route 4, obviously, but on Route 4 is a mass of what's called dark fiber. So it's heavy internet that can deal with dispatch. It can deal with records software. As you know, I mean, our police department, we don't share in the county's records management system. So even fractions of a second can make a difference when sharing that information. So that is one of the reasons that site was selected. So yes, ideally it would be moved over there, but until that time, it'll be where it is.
Perfect. I want to just follow up and a little move forward. You're really encouraged as time moves forward that you actually, when you see opportunities coming forward with the idea of anything that we can be involved in. Over the past years, I know we actually we have to vote on officers for different things in the county, but we never know that ahead of time. So I always say, so why weren't we aware this was coming up? I mean, so anything you can do, we would really appreciate the idea or any opportunities or things moving forward.
I apologize that happened. So when those caucuses were held, my father-in-law actually died when we were in California. So I apologize we didn't get that out to you guys. Commissioner Kelly actually handled that caucus, and the way that they do budget committee, I've never seen anything like it. It's the wildest thing. And so this coming year, that typically happens in late spring, early summer, when those caucuses are held. And I believe, Lisa, do you guys get a notification of that?
I'm
I don't
on
know
that
how
list
that
now.
works.
Yep.
Okay.
I get the
Yeah.
notifications, and I make sure I forward them to the council.
Okay. We'll make sure that happens. I believe it's 2 for every district, I think.
You don't need to apologize because, to be honest with you, in the last 10 years, I don't think we've ever been notified ahead of time prior to you coming in. So, I mean, we always get the information for the vote, but we never, like I say, you are the first representation to be here live, so that's awesome.
Okay. I will make sure that is done, and I'll work with Lisa on it.
Perfect, thank you.
What happened? Don dropped off.
Mark, got anything?
What's the current state of our current budget? Since I was on the budget committee for years, but because of that, I'm not on there this year. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious what's the state and how things been going.
So it was my first experience with county budget this year. Wow. So it was contentious. I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. Our former county administrator left us, promised a lot to county employees that was not necessarily run by the commission and the budget committee. And it was a very, very difficult budget to get through. The county budget, I have the numbers right here. The round number is the county budget is $17 million. Of that, a little over $10 million is raised through taxation. Taxation is partly determined by the county, but it's also largely determined by what our percentage of valuation is. Lisbon stands a little under 8% of the county's valuation right now. The state sets that, and it's applied to whatever the budget is through a mill rate. The town of Lisbon's commitment's a little over $900,000 this year. The valuation of the town went up. Honestly, Androscoggin County is a very popular place to live, and the home values are going up, property values are going up, and that's reflected in that increase. This year, I personally spent a lot of time trying to trim everywhere that we could. one of the concerns that I had from the last budget was that we obviously had a loss because of COVID. That's largely where the ARPA funds were supposed to help us out, and some of those we added to the budget and with ARPA money, probably items that, in my opinion, should not have been added because they were going to be ongoing expenses above and beyond what the county was going to have to pay. Some of those things we did have to trim. Some we were not able to. But I do have concerns going forward about things that we did during COVID because we were flush with cash. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
that's
Pretty good.
I do have some concerns about that.
It's some of mine through Ferns, but piece that I have is, what's your role in, making sure the town of Lisbon is, getting what they should be getting from the county? And what's the type of communication are we having with each other? Is it good? Does it need to be better? Are we losing out on things that's not being watched? Are you kind of policing stuff for us, or?
That's my job.
Right.
So I guess I'll try to answer the question as best you can. Feel free to
Yep.
follow up and
Yep.
pin me down. So Lisbon is a unique community in Androscoggin County. We're not a city, but we're also not a small town. Lisbon has taken it upon themselves over the years to provide really high-end public safety services to the town of Lisbon. I'm thankful for that. I've used them before, and I think that's a decision that is best made here and not in other places. That being said, we constantly straddle the line between city and town, and I think Lisbon is becoming a very popular place to live. You really can get everywhere from here, and I think that we're going to see over the years that more and more people are going to live here, and we're going to have to make harder and harder decisions about how, we tax the people and how we, maintain the services that we need. I think that the county can play a very limited role in what the county can do for Lisbon. I honestly think that there's going to be a lot of cases that maybe how can Lisbon help the county? It's a very different setup. The county is not very powerful. We can't, we don't have any control over zoning, and for ourselves or for any town. We don't have control over roads. We have limited control over public safety, especially in a town that has their own police force. So it's very limited what the county can do. As far as communication, I am happy to set up a regular time for me to come in and give you any updates you want. I've always tried to do that when I was in elected office. So whenever you guys want me here, I'll be here if my schedule is open. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Appreciate that. It's awesome. Yeah, well, it helped me a lot, right? I mean, I didn't understand the full role, right? So, to your point, I didn't realize that the power didn't have much power there or influence there.
It's very
right? So-
different.
Right,
It's,
so,
yeah, it's a different setup compared to other states, and Lisbon is a unique community in our county.
nice, thank you.
Yep.
Garrett, the ARPA funds,
Mm-hmm.
do you know how much the county got?
The county received a little over 21 million in ARPA funding, and that was really split in half. So half has to be for lost revenue, and half was for projects, essentially projects that could benefit the community and the county. Once again, I'll go back to the talking point that I had before. The federal government looked at ARPA funding indiscriminately. So when they put money in to ARPA and put that out through a formula, all counties nationwide were treated the same. When counties found out in Maine that they were going to receive $21 million. And, in some cases, I think Penobscot got $28 million. Cumberland got a huge swath of cash. It was a difficult process to manage. Like I said, the county budget is $17 million, a little bit more. To have all of that dropped in your lap it's wonderful, but it's also dangerous. So you have to be super responsible about it. I will tell you that Androscoggin has been one of the slower counties to allocate funds. We've actually, when I came in, they were in the middle of having presentations from community organizations on different things that they had either lost revenue on or projects that they wanted to fund in the future. Though we had set an internal goal, well, the commission did before I was there, of April of last year to have proposals in. Many of those proposals were deemed unworkable under the federal guidance, and that was the other thing too. I mean, federal guidance for a lot of these programs were issued once and then they were issued again, and some of those had changed. So the county really tried to take an approach of like, listen, we got this building, we need to make upgrades. Instead of levying things on the taxpayer, why don't we try to take the best advantage that we can out of these funds? I can tell you that what we have learned, or what I have learned, I'm not going to speak for the rest of the commissioners, is that the building that we have is very old and very inefficient. And I don't mind sharing this with you now, but we got a quote back for our HVAC system, and it was, we could replace the building for the amount that it would cost to put in an HVAC system, because you'd essentially have to rip out the entire inside of it. So, those are the kind of things that we focused on to be like, let's make these improvements so that, it saves the taxpayer money in the long run. But we have done some of those things. One example I'll give you is the Register of Probate's office could not handle the load of all of the filing cabinets, and that had to be reinforced. The floor had to be reinforced. That's a project that was undertaken and completed. We've gotten quotes on replacing the windows, and because it's a historic structure, they have to meet certain standards under, historic preservation guidelines through both state and federal guidelines. So that's been a little costly, and we definitely scaled that back. But there's been a lot of projects. Namely, the biggest one is the purchase of the Center Street property.
Is there enough money in the ARPA funding to, is that property paid off?
Mm-hmm.
Is there enough money to renovate it and make it usable?
It depends on what the city will let us do. When we purchased the property, it was with a sheriff's office in mind, and I think maybe what the sheriff wants and what the commission wants is a little different. But there is money in there, but what we can do with that money is limited under ARPA. So there may be a point where we have to either go out for a bond issue or find a way to pay for it internally. But there will need to be things done to that building, for sure.
So that's where the taxpayers might be
Yeah.
on the hook to, because with the meeting that I attended with you guys, it was a little disheartening to hear that the property got some frozen pipes and it flooded, and that was an expense.
Very disheartening.
Did they get the monitors? They were talking about
Yes.
getting monitors?
Yep, that was an ARPA expenditure that we were able to use.
And they had an issue with one of the units on the roof?
Yeah, they did. I don't know what the resolution of that was, though. I can find out.
I just want to know if there's enough funding to complete it so they can use it. Because if there isn't, it's going to have to get bonded, and we're going to have to pay for it.
We've never been able to get to that next step.
And is that because of Auburn?
So a year ago, I guarantee you it was cheaper.
By far.
But it's just unfortunate.
If I can ask, what's the issue with Auburn?
I would invite you to ask that question to them. We've heard a lot of things. But we don't know, and we've shared our plans. We have offered up what we would like to do. Quite frankly, it's a really wonderful opportunity for the city of Auburn to have a police presence on Route 4, which there is about one casualty accident that causes casualties about every month
Oh, yeah.
on Route 4. There's car dealerships there, there's shops, there's all these things that are there, and it would be an added police presence. The other thing that is our contention is that we chose that property because of the Harriman study that was done, but also because it was zoned for that.
That's the same zoning. It wouldn't. Right?
It was chosen because it was zoned for city government and town government, actually all government. So the fire department is across the street. So that's what that was zoned for. We've offered many resolutions. The city is now in the middle of creating a permanent ordinance that we would end up having to go to the actual council to get final approval for the building. We'll see how that plays out, but I mean, we're very limited in what we can do, but I think it's a good thing for the county. It's certainly a good thing for the officers, to not have to deal with black mold in the basement every time it floods, which it will probably be doing in the next month. So yeah.
Well, that, dragging their feet is costing Androscoggin County money, right?
Yes.
So
Can I ask a follow-up for the?
I think it's definitely a good question that we should be asking Auburn.
Yeah, we're going to ask Auburn.
That's why I wrote it down. I mean, why are they, what's their true issue that's allowing them, for the whole Androscoggin County, to pay for them dragging their feet?
Right.
And hopefully we don't learn that it's a stupidity reason that could end up causing thousands of dollars hundreds of thousands of dollars, to Lisbon, Lewiston, Auburn, Durham, all of the towns that belong to Androscoggin County. I think it's very unsat, their behavior. I mean, there should be a clear reason why they're not helping to get that building up and running.
And we've addressed concerns of loss of taxation. I mean, it was first said that all of the units on the property would be a loss of taxation for the city. That's just not true. We pay the taxes on the rental units, and the piece that we want to talk about is the actual dealership. Like
Right.
That would be the county building.
Right.
We're willing to have conversations on that. We're open to resolution, but 6-month moratorium after 6-month moratorium,
that's not good.
It's not fair to the county, and it's not fair to the other communities that are not Auburn, especially those who are too small to have police forces that rely on the county for that. So we'll see. I'm hoping that we find a good resolution, but I mean, I do think it's a tremendous opportunity to move the county light years forward with police protection, especially on the busiest road in the state.
Yeah.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
you had mentioned the idea that initially with the budget that out of the 17 million, 10 million of it comes from taxation budget. I mean, from county, but you had actually mentioned the idea the opera was partially for lost revenues. So, and the taxation revenue didn't go away. So where was the loss of revenues coming from during COVID for the county?
There's a lot of places, and I can get you better answers, but I can give you a few examples.
Okay. I didn't realize that the county actually collected revenues from other entities, that's all.
Yeah, so like deeds, so registry of deeds, home sales were down in the first part of COVID, and
Up in a second. Right?
yeah, up in a second. But we make a projection based on that. So those fees were down. Prisoner transfers were down because people were in place, and as you know, we're part of the one system that the state has, and we exchange prisoners back and forth. That wasn't happening as much, so those funds weren't necessarily realized. I got to think about a few other things here. but I can get you a couple more examples, but those numbers were down. They're back up now.
Yeah.
And lost revenue can be used not only just for the county, but they can also be used for other like nonprofit organizations that lost money. So one example was the Trinity Jubilee Center. That was probably the best presentation that I heard. Well, when they were doing presentations, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. The amount of good that they do in the Tree Street neighborhood in Lewiston is amazing. It's amazing, and they really do it without a lot of money, and they're looking to build an addition off of the church that they're in now. We heard about that. They proved that there was lost revenue. Part of their plans didn't work, but some did, and that's something that the county was like, no, that's a benefit, especially during this time. Like, it's important to fund something like that. But we had projects too that I really wanted to fund, but we weren't able to because they didn't fit the criteria. But like the Franco Center wanted to replace some things, and they tried to make it fit under lost revenue, and it just didn't happen.
So was that open to all the county? So even like nonprofits in our area could actually apply if they wanted to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that many people are aware of that.
I don't, and they might not have been. And that was, I remember my first meeting showing up. It was hilarious because I'm like, I've always been told the county doesn't have any money, and now here we are handing out money. You know what's that all about? So I mean, it was a weird process for everyone.
Especially if there's that much. I mean, if there was $10 million of monies that only could go to lost revenues, that's pretty substantial.
And it was used. Like, there was a good portion of it that was used for, to stabilize county budget. But there was also, that money has to be completely encumbered by 2024, the end of 2024, or it goes back to federal government. So that,
Just lose it, right?
yep. So we're going to do the best we can to allocate it in the best way that works.
That's my question. I just didn't know how we lost. I was just curious on that loss of revenue.
Yeah.
Dodine?
I don't have any specific questions, but I'm really glad to listen and learn. Thank you for
Good.
being here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here.
Christine?
As a representative for Lisbon, what do you feel is the biggest priority as far as representing us to the county and what you can do for our community?
So I think that there's a couple of things in different areas. I think the biggest issue that we all should be concerned about, even here on the council and as commissioners, and just as taxpayers, is the jail. The jail is obviously, I don't know if you want to call it an asset, but it is something that we're all part of, and it's a difficult budget every single year. And yes, are the bulk of the people that are there, are they from Lewiston, Auburn? Yes, they are, but they do come from all over the county. The system that we're currently in, when I was in the legislature, I chaired the Criminal Justice Committee, so I'm deeply steeped in how this all works. It is a very broken system. We rely on the state for their funding of the correction system, and through prisoner transfers. So if we're overflowing at Androscoggin, then we have to ship them someplace else that has room, and that's just the way that it works all over the state. I would say that the jail and how that works is the lion's share of the sheriff's budget, and it's something that needs to be watched and advocated at the state level. The Maine County Commissioners Association does that for us. We're obviously all involved, but they're always watching jail funding bills that go through the Criminal Justice Committee in Augusta. So I think that that's one thing. I think probably another thing that is always a conversation is PSAP charges. That's something that always needs to be watched. Like, for example, like Lisbon, we kind of take care of our own problems here. Like we do, we take care of that locally. But it's always interesting to have that fight. We just started it last week about what we're going to charge for service. And that's something that it's interesting. The commission usually works together on most things, but then when you start to charge for public safety, it gets a little different. My opinion on that matter is a little bit different than perhaps people from Turner. That's a very different opinion. But like public safety is something that I spend a lot of time advocating for our towns. Like Lisbon and Sabattis both have police departments. Wales does not. But that's always a piece that I have to pay attention to. And honestly, the biggest thing right now is the county building. Like if you haven't been in the county building, you should go. It needs a lot of work. We're gonna have to make some tough decisions soon about what we do with that building. It's 160 years old, and it's not built for today. When people get arrested and they get brought to county, the waiting room is the hallway. Like that's where you wait to get charged, and you might even get questioned there. So that's something that I think as a commissioner for Lisbon I need to pay attention to. Those three things.
Glenn?
I'm grateful that you came in and gave me that overview because, like you said, I'm used to a different structure of county government. So
where did you come from?
New Jersey.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. I read it somewhere. I can't
county
remember.
was like, very present. But with that understanding, my only question would have been: is there an opportunity for a county liaison to periodically come to council, report on activities, or ask questions of us? And I think you already touched on that. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Anytime you guys want me here, I'm happy to appear. And I just think of one more thing, Christine, that we need to pay attention to. Sorry, we're searching for a new county manager, and so that's something that I'm paying a lot of attention to. We've looked at a lot of resumes, and so that's something that will be important. The county under our charter is supposed to, the administrator is supposed to come up with a 5-year plan, and that's important to me to know. Like, and there might not be a lot to it. Like I said, I mean, you might just be like, well, just make sure we keep costs under control and whatever. But like, it's important to have those conversations. So whoever the new county manager is, I think that's an important thing to pay attention to. So you just made me think of that, Glenn, when you started talking about.
I guess my other question is, I've navigated like the online deed system and stuff. Is that something that is standardized across the state, or do you kind of just pick and choose, or have your own kind of software? Because I'm used to having a much more searchable kind of like database.
Oh, what do you mean? You don't?
I'm just curious.
No, every county kind of does their own thing.
Okay.
You look through Cumberland's, theirs is very different. Kennebeck's is different. Ours is the same, I think, as Franklin. But that's, everybody just does their own thing.
Don?
Yes. Garrett, it's been really nice looking at the back of your head. At least it's not as bald as mine. The only question that I really had was, and I think you might have covered it, I got away for a while, but the equity of policing by the sheriff's department between towns such as us that has a police department and Turner, for example, that does not, and there's always been some tension over the funding and how that's allocated and what it costs everybody else to do that.
Yeah.
So that was my concern.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. I think one of the things that is another unique county government situation is that we are obligated to provide policing for communities that do not have it. That is something that we are responsible for. We split that share with the state. It's usually 6 months on, 6 months off. The state has made some changes in the way that they are doing policing. We're not quite sure if that is actually allowed or not under the law, but that's something that's being talked about now. The bottom line is I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody. Every town can decide if they want a police force or not. Every town can decide if they want to sign a contract for additional policing with the county. There are communities that have chosen not to do that. And that's, I hate to sound, there's really not much else that I can do about that other than say, hey, you might want to think about, signing a contract. Poland did that. Poland just recently did that. They have an outpost right over near the town office and where the elementary school is now. And they signed a contract. We have a full-time police sheriff's officer over there. So it's unfortunately a little out of my control.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that?
Follow up? Yes, sir.
So you had just mentioned, and the same thing on that factor. So when, unfortunately, I've been following for the last, decade or so, the dispatch communication with a lot of other people and seeing all different levels of it. But there was one point in time where we actually were working with that neighborhood, Savatas and Durham, helping them with the dispatch.
Yep.
And then we came up with a format. Our former chiefs came up with a format on how to properly charge, and the county kind of took that over and took some of our partners. At that point in time, going through some of the meetings, it seemed like that there really wasn't a whole lot of thought on what the county actually had to do to bring these other people on as far as for costs. We kind of knew what it was going to be. They have to bring extra personnel on, for every staff, and doing the numbers, it seemed like it was just what they were actually going to collect, and revenue wasn't going to offset what they had to spend in extra expenditures.
Yep.
So I was just curious, when you're going through the process you are right now with the idea of looking at the dispatch fees and the idea of even putting an outpost in the community, do you actually look at that as what that represents, like what it costs, and is that actually put out to the community to the point where it's pretty much a revenue cost neutral versus the idea of,
I really don't know.
Yeah.
And it was that was done a little bit before I got there, and I don't really know if any kind of analysis was done on that. I know that they pay more. Does it cover all the costs? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Does it cut down on response times and stuff like that? Yeah, probably. But I don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious, especially if they're doing. We have a pretty good idea of the dispatch because we actually look at it every year, and we kind of have the numbers pretty much wrapped up.
Yep.
But the idea of, county, especially if they're trying to bring in other people, it's just only fair that they're, if they are bringing out more people, that is fair across the board. But there's nothing about what we do in life is fair, so I do realize that. So we appreciate everything you can do, and just having someone there that's somewhat monitoring it that can give us the information is awesome.
Yep. I'm happy to do it.
Anybody else? Any follow-up?
Lisa, do you have a question for me?
No?
Okay.
We have our finance director here. You have any questions for the county that might? Help us out?
Just where we send the bill.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
Question.
She's the money one. Look at.
Actually, we did have a question. Can we break that up in bi-weekly payments?
Yeah, bi-weekly payments.
Is that a possibility? Yeah.
So you can pay it off 7 years sooner. Yeah.
So yeah, we're in our budget process right now, and received amounts for PSAP and for county budget, and we're looking at 5% increase for PSAP and 10% increase for county respectively. So I guess it's been touched upon throughout the evening, but what's the proportionate share there in relation to the other towns in the county? How is that derived?
So for PSAP, it's pay by service. So we set the rate, calls come in. That's the way it shakes out.
Is it per capita? Is that how they do it?
Yes, it's based on. Let me pull up my spreadsheet. I had to have the chair, the commission. I'm going to lie about it. I was like, I forgot my binder. Can you take a picture for me? So she took a picture for me.
I'm just going to be able to read it.
And I don't have the PSAP one here, but I can get you the sheet for it, and it'll break out how it's all charged out. It is based on population and service.
I just want to ask that for when we get prepared for budget, for those questions that get raised from our town, we were able to answer those. So that comes up a lot.
And I'm happy to come when that comes up, and you can refer those questions to me.
Okay, great. I guess a follow-up question, because when we go through our budgetary process last year, a lot of the
mean, that's a good question. It's a loaded one, but I think for Lisbon specifically, I think I kind of touched on that already in the fact that like Lisbon's a unique community. We don't take advantage of the services that could be offered as much as other towns do. So I think just by the nature of the decisions that we've made here in town to have more present public safety and items like that, I think that those are just things that we don't take advantage of. And that's, they're there when we need them to be there. The sheriff will come in if there's something big that happens in town, he'll be here. But that's just one of those things that we handle ourselves. The other things are the Registry of Deeds, obviously. There's a lot of buying and selling going on in Lisbon, and that's a service that is provided by the county. There is a small fee that's paid if you sell a house, but if you have some land that you want to split off from yours, and you need an easement like that, that gets filed and handled by the county. Those type of things. The other things are probate. I'm going through a probate situation right now in Saginaw County, and it's a service that they provide, and that's where all of those things take place. I think if you these are smaller things, but the Historical Society, Androscoggin Historical Society is there, and like I love history and I love those things, and I'm glad that there's a place that those things are taken care of. Yeah, I mean those are the type of things, and outside of that, the jail. You hope you don't need the jail, but you might, and that's another service as well, especially if you're a victim of crime. It's good to know that there's a jail that somebody can be taken to. So I would say those are the big ones.
Thanks, Kayla. Anything else? Don, good?
I'm good.
Don's better than all of us.
No, no.
I missed that. What did you say?
I said you're better than all of us. Don't worry. There's 12 inches of snow coming tomorrow, so it's fine.
Quickly, Garrett, you got
We're having rainstorms and floods, so
It's a shame.
you guys hired a ARPA consultant?
Yes, very done.
Done?
Yep.
Is he helpful? Is he doing anything that is worth the money?
It's basically required. So there's a lot of reporting that is required under the ARPA funds that we just don't, we can't comply with it. And the federal government, especially since, there's been a lot of reports about wasted and fraudulent money, they are looking into things a lot deeper now. And it's like an IRS audit. You want to be ready because you'll have to pay back with penalty if you don't use the funds correctly. The other part of that, too, is we need to have legal backup for whatever decisions we make, in that we need to be able to explain ourselves, because there is literally no one that can give you any information at Treasury outside of the guidance that is written on paper. So you have to take what they look at, what they have sent us, and make your best guess if what you're going to do is okay, because there is no one to talk to. They tell you that in the paper, that don't call. Here's an email address. You can send us an email. We might get back to you. Probably we won't. So it's covering our six at this point. Yeah.
Okay. Nothing else?
That's awesome.
So we're a low budget operation at the county. We don't have business cards, so I'm gonna just leave these to you guys. This is my company card for my public relations firm, so you guys can have that. You can hold me there. And yeah, I'm happy to be here anytime my schedule allows it.
Perfect. We appreciate you coming in.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Garrett. Appreciate it.
I'm gonna go put my little girl to bed.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, would you like me to put the camera on pause while you take a short break?
Please.
Okay.
Drive safe. Be good.
Yes. I will always try to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
I'll be in touch.
You can bring it up to the very first thing.
Perfect.
You guys rather be up on the agenda so you get home?
If at all possible.
Where is that?
Yeah. I don't know why they put you last.
Where is that, Lisa?
It's under other business.
Other?
Yeah, it's way down there.
Oh.
Number 9.
Okay.
9D.
9D? So we'll just take 9D out of order?
Mhm.
Okay, we're on?
All
We
right,
don't need any roll calls or anything now, right?
we're all set.
Okay. Okay, bring this meeting to order. First item?
All right. The first thing I think that we'd like to do is take an item out of order, moving traffic control of the 2023 construction season to the next item.
9D.
You're up.
Whoever's up is welcome to come up.
My name is Mike McGee with E Construction. I think I recognize some of you guys from
Last time.
early in the season. I guess same but different. We wanted to come down tonight and just discuss some traffic control on 125. Last year, obviously we were focused on downtown. We had some limited traffic there. We had it reduced to one way. This year, 125 will remain two-way traffic the entirety of the construction season. We'll have all main traffic while we have our work zone set up. But the one item that we wanted to run by you folks in regards to traffic control, there's several side streets on the stretch. There's several side streets on the stretch of road that have multiple sources, whether they come out on 125 or can go away from 125 in order to gain access back and forth to the houses. So we want to exert the option as far as closing the 125 side of an accessible neighborhood on the 125 while we're doing the work in that vicinity. The reason being safety factors for people coming in and out of our construction site, in order to be more effective and a little faster work output in order to get through those intersections, and keeping the general public away from that construction site a little bit more. And if we can go that route and you guys allow that aspect of the traffic control to take place, we can use some automatic devices instead of flag stations in some essence on some of that stretch of road. So essentially we wouldn't have to have a flagger stationed at that particular site. We can have lights set up and a team member running those lights essentially. We probably won't have timer devices, but they'll be controlled by one of our personnel anyways, and that magnitude. So we don't have an official traffic control plan together right now, because in order to do so, we want to know from you folks if this is something that you guys would consider during that construction season. So before I go on to anything else, does anybody have any questions in the regards to kind of what we'd be doing in those stretches?
I understand that your request, and the good news is all them side streets have secondary.
I think
so.
Is there two? So there's two side streets that don't, and at those particular locations, we understand that we have to work with the people getting in and out. We typically will have steel plates that we put over trenches and have just kind of on standby. There may be brief instances when we're right in the middle of it that we have to take that time to get those out and get people in and out. But those are not a question, know what I mean? Those, we understand we have to do that because people got to be able to get
one
in and
dead
out,
ends
so.
to the small trailer park.
Yeah.
So though, so that's 100% on us to keep accessible at all times.
But
so,
the good news, the majority of them, though, they do have
David.
secondary access.
Yeah, and that's
Sparson?
yeah. So that's our if there was more of those side streets that only had one, we probably wouldn't have the conversation. We just have to buckle down and go get through it. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea.
Mr. Chair, the only thing that I had concern about at all was the idea of, it's not really through the school season, really, because, right, pretty much the school season's pretty much, the school buses would probably have more of a challenge.
Right, and that's what, if that's allowed, we'd have to just communicate that aspect as to where we are with our schedule, because we're going to give a 2-week look-ahead schedule every couple weeks, or if we need to, we'll do it every week even for this, if we're by a road, so we can communicate with the bus department if that's the case.
Besides that, I don't think it's really.
And if they, I mean, I don't mind having a conversation with the facilities director of the school district too, and just kind of, if they have a concern, whether I can work out something with them, or if I need to have certain days that we really try to avoid that closure of those
I
roads.
think maybe, Glenn, if you could talk with the chief, Ryan McGee. I think we ought to bring him on it and let him know what's going on and get some direction from him, what he thinks.
That's
You have Ryan's contact info too, so you
Yes.
can just.
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, we'll skip kind of a summary on what we're discussing here to Ryan. If so obviously we dealt with Ryan on last year's project portion.
Yeah, I
of
would
stuff,
say
so we don't mind.
between
if,
Glenn and Ryan, I think you
Yep.
could probably do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
I think the school
we're
will
good
have to
with
work with you also.
Yeah, that
too,
I
because-
didn't. I'm glad you guys mentioned that because that is a big factor as far as wherever we are, no matter what we have going on.
They
up
could
through
just
there,
change
so.
their pickup.
correct, yeah.
You know, If you give them enough notice.
Oh,
say
yeah.
The kids at this
Yep.
corner, we can move the kids to this corner, which, any of them streets are very long, so it's not a big
Right,
inconvenience.
they're pretty. Yeah, they're
right?
pretty.
So
Pretty small.
I think
neighborhoods, yeah.
with a
Okay.
good if we communicate well enough, I
Yep.
think the parents will be fine.
Okay, no, we'll do that, and then we'll just look for any input from Glenn and Ryan if that works, and then we'll get the rest of the traffic control plan put together. I did want to just touch on a couple other things if you guys didn't have any questions on the traffic control aspect. Schedule-wise, we kind of passed out the schedule. We're looking at April 1st, kind of a tentative start date right now. Weather's going to play a part on that. Our crews worked diligently in the last year and got up to kind of where we were hoping to. So we're going to, that first 1,500 feet up School Street roughly is made very minimal impact this year. There's a little bit of loaming, a little bit of cleanup for the businesses down there, but overall we only have surface pavement left to put down there. So that won't be later in the season. Depending on how it goes this year and whatnot, but it won't be nearly anything compared to what it was, obviously. So, but a couple of the other things that we're doing outside of what we did last year, we had a couple of disruptions in service and water services for business and stuff. We are going to install temp water on everything that we're working on this year. We didn't do that last year because we were away from some of the water, but there was some unknowns and things that got us into a couple spots that I would rather not have been in. So we're going to install temp water. So that will be some of those early activities, maybe even late March if the temps will allow it. We need the temps to kind of stay above freezing because the temp water is going to be on top of the ground and then just connect down to services. So we're going to do that aspect. Also going to attempt to run a couple of mainline crews when we start right off the bat. They'll be spaced out enough so that there's enough, the traffic control works and whatnot within that range. But just to get an early jump on it, because we got a fair amount of work left to do, and just trying to meet scheduled deadlines with DOT on the overall project. So
Good, sounds good.
you guys have any other questions as far as anything that took place last year, or anything you foresee as far as potential problems that may exist this year?
Where are we on the schedule? Are we where you guys want to be right now?
No, we'd rather be 1,000 feet further up the road with the utilities, to be honest. We got into some unknowns as far as the sewer and quite a few more services than we expected to see by contract. So we're a little further behind than I'd like to, but some of the reasons for having two crews right out of the bat as far as the main line.
You're going to be able to make that up, you think?
I think we make up some of it. I don't know if we'll make up all of it. Depends on what we get into this year, because got an old infrastructure on the road, and it's just some of it's a lot of just information that we're kind of gathering as we work up through there. But with the sewer department and the sewer city folks are working on doing some cameraing, getting us some more information on sewer services. So we're hoping to have a little easier start, a little better, more information gives us a lot better situation as we're digging things up.
Right,
So, but
right. Well, we've got a Main Street business person and Main Street library person.
And a Main Street resident.
And a resident.
Got all of it. Perfect.
There were a lot of comments about the curbing being so high on the Main Street section that you finished.
Okay.
When you pave that, how much space is that going to take up for that curb?
There'll be an inch and a half, so it'll be 6-inch reveal, 7-inch reveal on most of your granite. So it's 8.5 roughly right now. So you'll have an inch and a half going on top of that final. You got 2 intermediate on the base layer and intermediate layer of pavement right now. So you got another inch and a half going on your primary road. So there'll still be 7 inches of reveal on that curb.
So I think that's the standard cadence though for a step, right? So I think,
Yeah.
I think that's, you need.
Yeah, it is, and then it gives the ability for them to overlay it in
Right.
X amount of years,
Right.
and you don't take too much of that surface.
Right. Because it goes the other way if it's too short.
Right, exactly, so.
Causes safety issues.
Then you pave it again over
Well,
the next
people have a hard time
years.
opening the passenger door
Oh, on some
of their
smaller
car right now
sedans.
because the curbing is so high.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it will get better, obviously, with that inch and a half will make a world of difference there, too. We get the surface layer on that, so.
Now, looks like from this that won't happen until 2024, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that we
the
have it
delay?
on there as far as the utility work, but I'm after this discussion, we're attempting to for the we'd rather surface the whole stretch all in one mobilization for a couple different factors. Obviously, it's more cost effective, but at the same time, you get a lot better quality out of it too. But we can, if this is a concern, we can look at doing up to a certain point surface-wise, no matter what, and then making sure we have at least up to. There's going to be some surface that's probably definitely going to be in 24 because of the surface deadlines in October. So we're not going to have all the utilities in and everything buttoned up as far as the amount of work, just because there's too much work to get done in that area. But that doesn't mean we couldn't do the first 2,500 feet of surface and take the downtown area out of, give them that last inch and a half, you know what I mean? So that concern would go away at that point, I think, as far as the car doors and things of that nature, and a little less a step for folks. So we can definitely take that into consideration and just talk to DOT a little bit on it and whatnot, but there's no reason we couldn't do that.
Okay.
And I think one of the hardest things was some of the impacts weren't communicated really clearly.
Okay.
The library lost drop-off space in front of the building because of the way the curving is done.
Okay. So that'd be more of a design thing with DOT, I guess, kind of before we had anything to do
okay.
with it, you know what I mean?
Okay,
So
well, that
I'd be right
helps
on that,
me.
James, so. Yeah, that would be Well, yeah, more of a design thing, so we're just building it as it's drawn, but that's.
Yeah, that helps me when I talk to people about
Yep,
it.
yep.
So.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I think overall the concept is 1,000% better. There's just a few unfortunate sacrifices, like anything that kind of don't get considered or just go by the wayside sometimes. I think on these projects downtown, just because everything's so tight. You know what I mean? You maximize what you can as far as even the design is. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If the paving is going to stay a little bit later in the year, there is some differences down there as far as the crosswalks and parking areas.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, pretty much most of the white lines are gone, only because of just
Yep.
the type of surface.
Yeah,
we've had.
Right. We've striped later in the season, of course, too.
Yeah, and it's understandable. You were definitely doing what you could. Is there any way this spring that maybe could be restriped? Only
Yep.
because
I think
a lot of people.
We've had that planned already as far as restriping. I know Tom and Shane were discussing that. So.
Yep. Last time.
Right. So they'll stay for this.
Yeah,
essentially
which is good. And
yeah.
Is there any plans to so with the crosswalks, we kind of lost a parking spot on either side, right? Is it part of this project to actually put signs up in the sidewalk saying no parking from here, this spot to this spot? Because a lot of times during the winter you don't see that. So right now we have people parking right out front of the entrance is.
Okay.
Because
Covering
no
up
one,
the crosswalks.
no one knows, you mean, so,
I think that's kind of up to us.
I don't know, I mean, I would think it would be part of the project,
Those are
but,
our ordinances.
That's a quasi one, because I'm DOT's representative.
Yeah.
I'm the resident on the project for DOT, so I believe we put up all the signs that it calls for.
Okay.
All those up last year, so it doesn't call for any additional. If there are concerns, I could bring it to Ernie Martin, the project manager, as part of the design. And it's a back and forth thing. We're in the urban compact, so I can't give you an answer as to how DOT's gonna look at that.
gotcha, yeah.
Minimal cost for,
I think,
it's not a
Yeah.
cost thing, it's more of a, we're in the urban compact.
who done it, right? Yeah. I think the air on each side of the crosswalk just would be nice, just because, like I say, during the winter, after a certain time of year, you don't see markings anymore. And then all the way up front of the fire station right now, they have like no parking stuck in the snowbanking, which won't be there. You know, eventually, hopefully it snows and be gone. So anything that we can give visuals, just to have people, even up front of the library.
Yeah.
There were people trying to park up front of the library, and if there was a sign there that basically said no parking, that you could see, you know, what I mean, that would probably eliminate a lot of that, because people have been parking there for the last, what?
Right.
50 years, right? So, you know,
Right, yeah.
so,
Now all of a sudden,
I'll ask the question.
yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, it may be easier to point out to people if there's a sign, they're looking at it, so,
Yep.
just a thought.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything else?
Good.
Don, anything?
No, I'm good. I'm just listening. I'm trying to
Very good.
visualize what Vern's talking about. It's been a while.
I like his spot better than I like ours, though. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, appreciate you coming in.
thank you.
You guys are welcome to bug out if you want. Next item?
Thank you, appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Next item is good news and recognition.
Anybody have any good news?
I do.
You do?
If I have an opportunity. I'd just like to recognize a bunch of people from the town, Positive Change and the rec department, and a bunch of businesses put together a fundraiser, a spaghetti dinner at the MTM. And I just want to thank everybody that participated and everybody that helped out. Small town stuff, but actually it was good to see a lot of people come through, and it just shows that we have a good community support for people in need and for everybody else. So I want to thank everybody that was involved, and I think it's good news and good recognition of what our town can do.
It was. We gave $3,800 and some dollars to the two families. 19 something apiece.
Excellent. Excellent.
Cash, a check. That was good. Anybody in the audience have any? No? Next item.
The next item is public hearings. Once the chair opens the public hearing, those present who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address the council chair. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record. First item, amendments to Division 5 sign ordinance.
I'll open that public hearing. Anybody in the audience want to speak to the sign ordinance? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Raymond Payne. I'm one of the owners of River Driver Cannabis Company over there on 8 Main Street in Lisbon. My building is one of the only buildings on Main Street there that has 3 visible sides. I'm reading in your ordinance that you're allowing only 2 signs per building. My building also has the ability to house 3 businesses, so it's 3 units in there. So I'm just finding it hard to swallow only having 2 signs on the building. I do have some applications in, and we'll be coming back on Thursday to talk about it further. But I wanted to voice my concern over that part of the ordinance, and would either be looking for some sort of guidance or an exception to allow me to have the signage that I feel that I need.
I believe that would happen in the planning board, wouldn't it?
Actually, the sign ordinance is actually something that's coming through council. This is more the public hearing, and I think typically we don't do council discussion during the public part of it, but when we get to the other part, we'll address what we can or what we can't, I would think.
Thank you very
Or,
much.
recommendations anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm semi-new to all this, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to be a squeaky wheel. Hopefully get some grease.
Never happen if you don't.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Griesbach. I live at the corner of Main and High,
Yes, sir.
the old Baptist church. And I'm coming at it from a different perspective, I guess. I have concerns, I guess, about Section 6.5, where if you the new provision about building mounted signs on the called out historic buildings, and it seemed this surprises me because when I think of historic buildings, and we kind of own a historic building, the church, this according to my reading, it allows you to put a sign 75% of the width of the building by 3 feet. I don't know how that could possibly kind of be in keeping with the historic nature of the building. So the size of these signs in these historic buildings looks like it is counterproductive for most historical buildings. I wouldn't even dream of putting a sign that big on my building because it would ruin its historical nature, it would ruin its architecture. We had the option when we bought the building of taking the steeple off, like most of the other churches in town, but that would have been horrible architecturally. It would have been a blight to the town, I think. So we spent our own, well, can I say, it was $8,000 just to roof the peak. So I'm concerned about the appearance of the town, especially historic buildings. And if anything, if you look at other ordinances, I was the code officer in Falmouth for 15 years, and I think when you look at ordinances, when you've got a historic building, they tend to tamp the signs down, not to go the other way. So I don't care what the use is in these places. We got to look at, it seems to me, we want to look more carefully at the appearance, because once this is approved and once signs are up, we know when you've got a sign that's conforming, and if you've changed the ordinance, it's there. So I wish you'd maybe reconsider that aspect. And I know the other thing is the size of signs has increased in size. And I have an ordinance here from the town for 2000, and the maximum sign in the village zone was 24 square feet. And now it's 40 square feet. So I don't know if we're all getting hard of, can't see very well, or what's going on. So that's a concern of mine in terms of what the town's going to look like over time. It has nothing to do with individual businesses, but I think they can thrive without big monster signs. And I think it can really impact what the town looks like. So I don't know how this came about, but I'd ask maybe you take a look at it and see what you think. We don't have an historic commission here, thank God. I think those can be really cumbersome. I know that Portland, you can't get anything done. So we don't have that, but we might have the opposite. So it seems to me that if we're going to do it in an ordinance, that it's really got to be thought out more than this. So that's my comment.
Great, okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments, items? Next item?
Mr. Chair, can you close the hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Seeing no more, I'll close the hearing.
Next item is audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues that are on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Anybody in the audience have any participation or response for any agenda items? Seeing none.
All right.
Next item.
Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless a counselor requests an item be removed. Any counselor wishing to remove an item may do so now.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove item 5 and have that voted on separately. Excuse me, item F.
We can move just the section that's the part that says for a liquor license for Olive Pit Brewing to a separate vote.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, so the consent agenda will be Order 2023-31 to approve the municipal accounts payable warrants, $1,036,956.39. Municipal payroll warrants, $200,453.37. School accounts payable warrants, $90,060.91. School payroll warrants, $378,780.21. To approve the minutes of February 7th. To set a public hearing for March 7th for special entertainment and a liquor license for Flex Restaurant, and for road closings for Memorial Day Parade, and to waive the banner fee for the American Legion Post 158 and Post 66.
Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ready for a voice vote?
Roll call. Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor Keller?
Yes.
Counselor Larochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Order pass, vote 7-0. The removed item, to approve a liquor license for Olive Pit Brewing Company. This will be vote 2023-31A.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Voice vote?
All right. Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor Keller?
Yes.
Counselor Larochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
Okay. Order pass, vote 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Next item?
Next item is council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2023-32, amendments to Division 5, the sign ordinance. This is a second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve for discussion.
I'll second it.
Vote?
Don, do you have something you wanted to add to it?
Mr. Chair, yeah, the concern over the size of signs on historic buildings, that was a major discussion in committee and on the planning board, and some really, I think, good thought went into it. It does appear, if you don't read it carefully, that it could affect anything that's designated as a historic building by the state. However, if I'm reading this correctly, the way it was intended, it says which specific buildings are covered. And it doesn't allow other buildings unless they were then added to that ordinance, which is another whole process. So I like the way it's written because it does limit to those particular buildings. And those particular buildings already have or have had large signs on them in their antiquity.
And Mr. Chair, I may add for the idea of a second or third sign, if the a lot of thought was gone into the idea of the size of the signs and the different locations of the signs. As it was in the past, it was the small sign on the front of the building. A lot of our 196 master plan and our standards actually change it around. So in larger facilities, we want the entrance to be in the rear, very much like the Rusty Lantern. So the Rusty Lantern, actually, we're trying to determine what is the front of the building, what is the rear of the building, so to speak, and which is the side, since it actually does have multiple sides that are visible from either road. So we are trying to make some of the standards we have in, so someone can do proper signage on it. So that's why there was added a second sign to the rear of the building, which doesn't really help the gentleman that wanted, so to speak, 3 signs, but yet it was, again, through committee, we had some pretty decent discussion on the idea that there are some businesses in the town that would benefit by a rear sign. That's why that was pretty much added to that. The size of the sign, again, it was actually in discussion for quite a bit, and there was only a couple areas in town, I believe, that were changed larger in this last ordinance change, but from what you had mentioned from a while back, it was actually a little bit smaller. I think the 24 square feet still stays in any of our resource protection type areas. But there was, just want to, as Don said, it wasn't just a short discussion. There was actually multiple meetings and different committees that actually met, and then also went to the planning board to try to figure out what was a smart way of doing it without actually causing much grief. And there are people that actually definitely would like to see more signage and larger signs, but I mean, the idea of just trying to keep it somewhat within reason and try to find that balance, I think, is what we tried to do. So there was really no ill will. It was basically us just trying to work with the people that were involved to try to make the best of a situation and try to adapt to some of our standards that we are putting in place. At the rear of the building is sometimes the front of the building in a sense, or the entrance.
Mr. Chair, one more point. That one section where the sign was changed from 24 feet to 40 square feet was a mistake. That was already done and had existed as 40 square feet previously, and when it was composed, it was written as 24, and that was never the way it was. So that 40 square feet is really a correction for something earlier.
Yeah, it's not an increase. That's what it was before the ordinance was worked on.
Right. Yes, that's what
Yep.
yeah. Speak English. I'm trying.
So they corrected a mistake then. So it was originally 40.
Correct.
So they put it back to 40.
And ultimately, I mean, when you're a business trying to have your signage seen, 40 square feet is actually not very much at all as far as visibility, making awareness of your business.
I think the point is the historic nature of the buildings and the signage for a historic building. For example, the last sentence on the signs on a large-scale historic building shall be integrated into the architectural design. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah. And historic character of the building and shall not obscure any architectural details on the building. We're just talking the historic buildings now, not a business.
It's an overlay specific to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings. It doesn't apply to any other building in Lisbon. So it's standards in place in those in section 70-718. So it's only those 5 buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
So in other words, that means that if someone has a historic building, they're not just going to be able to go ahead and put a sign of that size on it. That was never the intention.
I guess what I'm getting at is my question would be, for example, the Warumbo Mill Complex. Is the big white Lisbon cannabis, is that architecturally
at the time
designed and historic character of the building? I mean, I'm not so sure it is.
The original, looking at some of the different ones, it'd be very much like if you look at the
old Warumbo text that was on the white mill
That was huge.
was huge, but it was also kind of cool, like it fit with the architecture.
Yeah, it's individual letters, and if you look at like the Mason building, the lettering on the front is very much similar. It's tall block, not actually as a sign, but individual letters, which you would see more in some of those earlier style buildings. Again, that's something that we looked at pretty hard, and I believe the writing of it was basically done by legal just to make sure it was conforming and fit what we wanted. So.
Any other discussion? We ready to vote? This is the second reading, right?
It is. Given that the second reading passes, then it'll be 21 days to go into effect, and it'll put the emergency sign ordinance
The rest.
To rest.
to rest. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor Keller?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Nay.
Counselor Moore?
Nay.
Counselor Robichaud?
Nay.
We have 4 yeas, 3 nays. Order passed. Vote 4-3.
Next item.
Order 2023-33 to approve personnel policy updates.
So this was circulated to the council in draft form. I'd ask if there's any substantive discussion that we table it to an executive session to discuss personnel matters. But if you have any general questions on the policy, going to make some grammatical and syntax corrections that I noticed this morning that will not change the intent. But on section 90-51, you'll see 90-51.5 twice. And that should be, changing of personal information, and there were some grammatical errors in there, so.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
A second.
And not getting into the detail of what they are, because it's very, very detailed, right? There's a lot of information there, but the consensus of this wasn't actually just driven by management. This was actually a team approach, I believe, to come up with this new plan in a sense, right?
Yes, I think we circulated this back in November to all the department heads, got feedback, took a second pass at it, had legal look at it just from an employment law standpoint. We haven't touched it in a couple of years. What do we need to update? Some stuff was dated, notably the sexual harassment policy, and that was all brought up to speed. Then the assistant town manager took a pass at it, one more pass back to the department heads, and here we are. So.
Yep.
This is, you will actually see this again later this year. We switched our workers' comp carrier, so there's going to be some more recommended policies as far as like return to work policies and stuff so we can achieve more discounts on our comp premiums. But so this will not be the last time you see the personnel policy this year, but this is the staff-driven portion of it. The next will come from our insurance carrier. So.
Yeah, and to keep everybody happy, if things change as times do, we got to keep modifying, right? We got to just kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, so
Yep.
I think as you read through it, if there's something that, like I say, that we need to, like Glenn mentioned, get down into, then we probably should do it in executive session. But
What were you saying, Councilor Canis?
I just had one, I don't have it in front of me, but if I recall, the word gender had been changed to gender identity, and I don't think that the one should eliminate the other. It should say gender and gender identity, because they're not one and the same.
I'll make a note. And then I will talk to Kristen. I know that there have been expanded protected classes and from an employment law standpoint, so I think that may have been legal's intent in that modification. But again, I will bounce that one off the town attorney tomorrow and make the change.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
yes,
From your discussion, do you actually want to have more discussion in executive session prior to us voting on it, or do you actually feel that we're okay to vote on?
well, no, I mean, I think that if everybody has, assuming everybody's read it, if there's nothing that they think we need to discuss that's sensitive, then we can just
Okay.
move forward. And if not, then we can do it in executive session. But I think we can, I mean, do we vote on the changes? Is that what we're doing? Or we just,
You would vote to accept the policy updates. And so, for instance, it's not a first reading, second reading kind of thing. So if you wanted to accept it with the changes noted, then we can do that.
if everybody's read it and they're good with it, then we can vote to accept it with the changes that need to be made.
Yep, and these always, as you mentioned, can be modified as time goes forward if necessary.
They
So-
can be
Yep.
because they're kind of fluid, so.
Yep.
All right,
Just wanted to make sure.
yep.
Counselor Kane?
Yes.
Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud.
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed 7-0. All right.
Next item.
Next is other business. Council committee reports.
School committee.
Nothing to report?
Planning board.
I don't have much, except they're scheduled to meet Thursday, but that, I guess they're talking about at least moving it to the second of the month instead of next week, but I don't know if that's actually happening or not.
From a scheduling point of view, it would happen if it has to be postponed due to bad weather because we're expecting snow.
Okay, well, they were just discussion with the other Lisa this morning.
Yeah.
Lisbon Development Committee.
I don't know if Ross wants to discuss what we talked about at the LDC meeting, or. Okay, so we talked with a company that does they do I'm trying to think how to explain it. This was a presentation about the foreclosed properties, abandoned foreclosed properties, and that they would basically work with the banks to charge the banks a fee, and then they would split it, and they would keep part of the money, and they would give part of the money back to us. I mean, the issue mainly that I saw is that there's not a whole lot of abandoned foreclosed properties. There's only 11 currently now, and a few more in the process, but there's just not necessarily enough to make it really sustainable. We'd be getting $6,000 or something a year, and I mean, there's some benefits there in terms of getting them to, banks to get in there and maintain the properties better and not leave, grass growing on the lawn and, broken windows and that sort of thing. So there's some benefit to it. I don't know if the company, they talked about they need 50 as a minimum. I don't know if they're willing to do it or not. So I don't know if they came back with us, with any information after the meeting. I know they said they were going to look into it.
Not yet. We'll update it at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's still a work in progress.
Yeah,
It's just, the only change publicly is our next meeting, due to a conflict, has been pushed to the 14th, Tuesday night, the 14th at 6 p.m.
That's the,
Did you say Tuesday? Aren't you,
That's
I'm
budget
only asking.
introduction night too.
Usually your meetings are on Wednesdays.
Right. Someone couldn't be there, so we had to rearrange dates.
We're going to be introducing the budget that night.
Ooh.
You may be moving it again then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
We can meet in the conference.
still my town manager's report items. That's
this is the, what's the company's name again? Green,
I'm sorry?
what's the company's name again? That's
ProSearch.
Yeah, ProSearch. This has been been going back and forth for a little while, huh?
We're still trying to figure out
What they do?
we figured out what they do, but they usually work with towns that have, 50 to 100 foreclosed properties. So it's not really, it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to focus on 11 properties. But at the same time, we're trying to establish what our capacity is for our staff to track down empty buildings. And one of the things that the committee asked me to do was make a list of vacant properties. And I've checked with the police department, fire department, and other than driving around town and knocking on doors, it's going to be real hard for me to make that list. So we're still trying to figure out how to sort of generate that sort of focal point and not just have it be a huge drain on staff time.
Okay.
Don't we have something in the the tax records? I think would identify if banks are the ones
Well,
paying
we can
it.
certainly
Sort through
identify
that.
those folks who aren't paying their
But
bills.
I mean, if it's a bank-owned property, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but if it's a bank-owned
escrow.
property and they're paying their bills,
Right.
we don't necessarily know if it's abandoned or not. I mean, it's
Right.
hard to.
But that'd be the starting point. I'd check
That's the
from
next
there.
step, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Most tax payments come from the bank, because it's escrowed.
Right, but I
mortgage
mean, in terms of
escrowed anyway.
who's owning it, who's on the deed.
Yep. So we'll do some more digging.
More legwork. Parks and Recreation.
Haven't had another meeting since our last meeting, but just want to put a thank you out there to the Parks and Recreation for the MTM, use the MTM for the spaghetti dinner and the father-daughter niche. The building is definitely well used, and And with little decorations go a long way, and that gym can actually make it look pretty nice. So just want to thank the staff for actually facilitating the use for the community.
Gyms can be dressed up. Just look at Carrie. County budget.
Well, I think we got a good report here tonight from.
And there
our
is a final
county
budget
commissioner.
out.
Yes, yeah.
You guys all saw that.
It
So
was
what does
that-
that do to our budget, bottom line?
It actually is 10%, huh? That is pretty substantial.
Yeah, it is. That's huge.
Unfortunately, we've had a lot of growth over the last decade in county budget expenses. It's always, a
Everything
lot of it
goes
is,
up.
we really had to fight to keep it below 10 every year.
Did and just to add to that, the last census, is it true that our population is now just under 10,000? It went from 9,000 to 9,800 or something. That's a substantial increase. I mean, that's 800 people, right? I'm not sure if those are.
I haven't heard anything about that being an incorrect number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I knew that our
Could be
population.
that they had more responses as well.
How do we know that?
I don't know.
How do
Someone
we
had mentioned
know?
that to me that the
Is it something
last.
we pull out of the hat?
I didn't know you could
9,700 in
question
this
the
last
census.
Yeah.
You can.
I'm kidding.
No, I mean, yeah, the census.
3 years ago.
It could be, when we ask questions about that, when it's only 800 people, it could be that there were more responses combined with a higher population. So the combination of factors could account for it, but I'm not sure. We could look into asking about it, but I'm not sure that that's a quantity that
I
the
was just
census
curious
would be
because
concerned
we
with.
were told that during COVID our population increased 400 or 500. So I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, but it's just one of those things that just seems like it's going to be quite a earmark or a benchmark when we break the 10,000 mark in a small community. It's no longer a small community at that point, right? It's actually, as you mentioned, small city versus large town. I mean, I don't know where it changes, but if it does, but.
A lot of numbers went up
Yeah,
in the
and I
last
think
census.
Every 5 years, the American Community Survey does projections and stuff like that, so you can check periodically between censuses.
Yeah, because
I never thought we would ever get close to our population from when Brunswick was here, the base in Brunswick. Because we lost a lot of people when that closed.
Huge.
Still growing though. That looks things
Still
right.
growing. I'm going to jump to Conservation Commission because I skipped it, and apparently that's mine. So I attended the Conservation Committee meeting. They mentioned that the Winterfest went really well. Dog sledding was the big hit. LL Bean may be using Beaver Park as one of their discovery places in the future because they really enjoyed it there. McDonald's served over 300 burgers. They were presented a wood carving of a beaver from the wood carving, Riverside
wood carving.
The ice fishing clinic went well that the PD was involved in. And some goals they have is to widen the entrance road where you come into the entrance of the park. There's kind of a sort of a convoluted entrance there because of that telephone pole that's right in the middle there. So they want to work on trying to get that expanded, widened. They're beginning to prep for Moxie. Part of their capital improvement plan is to work on a pole barn, having a pole barn installed because they have no storage down there. They submitted a copy of the forestry plan to me. I don't know if you all have seen that. If you haven't, I'll get Lisa to make some copies for me. My only issue with that is it's pretty dated. I think it was 2011 when that plan was done. And I don't know what might have changed in the park that might need to have that redone. Because they're talking about doing some forestry work in there, do some clear cutting and
Harvesting.
some logging. There was some structure of the question or conversation about the structure of the commission and the membership, but Mark wasn't there because I don't know if he was still in I don't know where Mark was, to be honest, but,
Hawaii.
yeah, he might have, did he go with the
He
Hawaii
didn't go to
group?
Hawaii.
Yeah. I don't think he went, did he?
He wasn't in Hawaii.
So that's it for the Conservation Commission. Library Board.
I have two things from the library this month, and one of them is the Access 360 is live now, and that provides access to ebooks and audiobooks, and you can use your current card number and gain access. You can take out 2 items at a time for 2 weeks, I believe. So that's pretty cool. We also are in the midst of a process of scanning in a lot of old records that the library has had for years. So they're being scanned into a searchable database for anyone who's interested in town history. One of the things that we found, this has been months ago, but the town had an island at one point, and I haven't been able to verify where that might be.
You should check with Mark. I think we still have, is it the one that the land trust?
Yeah, I believe we had an island, but we actually turned it over to the land trust. It was actually, that was done within me being on council. It was actually donated to the town or somehow goes through a process, and the Inniscarn Land Trust actually, or the river, Inniscarn River Trust, in a sense, took it over to keep it preserved, I believe.
Yeah, I think you can reach out to them and they'll let you camp on it too. So.
Where's the island?
It's kind of off of Ferry
by
Road
Charlie
out that way.
Brooks's?
Yeah,
Charlie
exactly.
Brooks's?
Was it Wag Island at one time? I believe. Or
Charlie
something.
Brooks is right on the
Yeah,
corner.
yep.
Curve.
Mr. Wag will tell you all about it when he visits.
Yep.
He does.
But yes, we had an island.
We have an island.
And you can camp on it.
What about the other island?
I'm not sure.
The one off from,
Right off the 196 by the river,
by
the
the
bridge.
Big Dipper?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe I'll claim it.
Could be Moore's Island.
Maybe I'll just go put my flag on it.
Oh, before I forget, if anybody's interested in participating in the scanning project, let the library know.
I was curious how they found out there was an island to the scanning process of books. But, I mean, is that because there was an island of someone on the island took out the books?
Overdue book from the island.
Kind of interesting, right?
It's an interesting way of finding out.
Well, who knows what else might be out there that we discover, right?
May not want to know.
Water Commission.
They had their last meeting on February 8th, welcoming their new commissioner, Alan Ward. I wasn't able to attend that, and then right after that, they had their hearing for the proposed rate increase in the water. That had, I think they said there was 2 people that came and 2 people that had questions, and I have the detailed minutes on it, but I think that was the end of that. There was no huge objection at that hearing. Next meeting is March 9th, I believe at 5 p.m.
Finance Committee.
We met last night. Kayla did a great job. We went over the March 18th workshop day. We talked a little bit about that. We also talked about, when the budget is as last year, we're not going to have with the state portion, so it'll be kind of the, same thing like I said last year, but we got through that. We still won't have that. March 14th, we're going to present it to us. It'll be presented to us, and then after the budget meeting, we can have a follow-up on the 21st, because we have a council meeting then. And then the 22nd is a very sad day for Lisbon. We're losing Kayla that day. It's her last day. Very big shoes to fill for sure. So, a lot of stuff going to be going on here. As we all know, budget season here. The state figures we're just not going to have as of last year. the workshop. As far as we know, everyone says we're in, so we're all gonna be there. I did mention, I don't know if you talked to Ryan, Glenn, I did mention, I don't know, I don't know if the 5 PM will be a hard stop, only for, there's a lot of information, and I think there's gonna be a lot of discussion, and to give people time to present, and then to have questions. My gut tells me we're probably gonna go past 5 o'clock, so I think we all should be prepared for that. If we get done at 5, great, but I'm all for giving the quality time that's needed for this budget, and if it goes to 6 or whatever, I think that's just something we're gonna have to do, just to give the team the quality time that they may need, and us to have the quality time for questions that we may need. So I'm not saying it's gonna go past 5 o'clock, but I did mention it last night that I was a little concerned that I think we should be prepared for it.
So we're
right?
talking breakfast, lunch, and...
I was gonna say, what's that third meal here?
Breakfast, lunch, and supper.
Town manager's report is
We
soon,
did get
so
a
we'll
lunch
get to
break
that.
in.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is what I'm hearing.
We did get a lunch break in, and that's at 12:30, and it's a half-hour lunch break, so we did get that in.
Joe Jean, I'm thinking...
And you can't eat in Lisbon because there's no
breakfast,
place to eat.
Supper, right?
Lunch?
Lunch.
Absolutely.
There's no lunch in Lisbon.
Flipping burgers?
Unless it's a burger, McDonald's or something like that. But there's no, or pizza. There's no sit-in lunch anywhere. Someday we'll have to see if we can
Beer.
figure out how to fix that. Be nice to get to go somewhere and actually have lunch,
Working on
an
that.
indoor lunch, right? So that come, yeah.
I think Ross agrees.
So it's, so I think it was a very productive meeting last night. We didn't have a quorum, but I think we got a lot talked about, and Kevin learned a lot, and one of the new members, Ridley, learned a lot, and so it was good. It was a good, thank you. She worked on a holiday. She was here by herself and put a lot of time this weekend to prepare for this meeting last night, so thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Next item?
Next item is the town manager's report.
All right, so touched on a lot of that. So just for some history there, because I didn't know the history of the schedule either until I talked to Kayla, but for the new counselors, typically we would do every Tuesday in March until we got through the budget. So we are going to need the introduction CIP meeting on the 14th. And then hopefully we can get through the expense budget on that Saturday. But if not, it's going to be a long day. So we can always recess and reconvene on another Tuesday, but that's the goal. And like you said, Kayla's last day is March 22nd. I just want to congratulate her on her, her next steps and where she's going from here. It's been a pleasure to work with her since July. You're right, will be big shoes to fill. We have position open till March 2nd and getting some applications in. But again, I just wanted to congratulate her, and we'll be in touch. We'll be colleagues. So you'll probably hear from me after budget. So, but again, congratulations. Then, for lunch, is there any places that folks like? I was looking at Rosie's to go to get catered here.
That's perfect.
Or
Yeah, it sounds really good.
That sounds really good.
okay.
Who said you couldn't get a good lunch in town?
Well,
right?
delivered,
No, just teasing.
yeah, I get it. But me and Ross were talking about actually be able to sit somewhere when
Should
you
we
mentioned
actually,
it.
should we actually get a request for
Prime
a
rib,
second
I'm
meal?
thinking prime rib,
For your dinner.
Shrimp scampi.
Prime rib.
Yeah.
Just
lobster, Maine.
Thermidor. Yeah.
So lastly, so in 2017, the previous town manager went out to bid for emergency services. And I don't know if that bid was ever awarded, but to comply with our current purchasing policy, I think it would be appropriate to put that bid out again, because even if we did award that bid in 2017 and use the option to extend, we would be in the year where we would need to rebid it. I've reached out to Jim and let him know that's probably what we'll have to do. Also, the charter, because the expense has exceeded the referendum limit, I have a call out to the town attorney to see if that's something we need to get on the ballot. I think we have until March 7th to do that.
I think that's the right date.
Yeah, so that may be another consideration, but wanted to ask the council for authorization to put out the RFP for emergency services based on it's updated, but based on the last time we went out to bid. So I could put that out tomorrow and have bids back by March 22nd.
I think if it's actually part of, that's why we have a new manager to follow the rules, so if that's part of our town requirements, I think it's nothing that we really can override.
Right.
We may not have any other options, kind of last time it was a limited response, but at least if we follow what we're supposed to do for rules, I guess we can't say that we weren't doing them correctly, right?
I think RFPs make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible we could explore sole source, but I have a feeling if we put out the RFP, we'll get, some response, and we can go from there.
And the idea of the going to vote, I mean, is there any other contracts in town that are over 250 that we actually don't go to vote for? Because solid waste, I think, is...
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
I got the tipping fee schedule for next year today.
So I think we have actually other ones in the past that we've looked at.
So that, I only got that today, so I was going to wait till the next meeting to talk to you about that because I have time to renew that contract. But I had talked to folks at the transfer station and the public works director today, and I think the closest place we can probably go outside in Auburn is Norwich Walk. So then you're talking the cost of sending a driver, full day, probably 8 hours going forward there and back. That'll cost in fuel. So I'm exploring doing that as a sole source, unless there's another viable option that I haven't found yet.
Well, it's understandable. I was just curious, 'cause I know in the past there were other things sometimes that come up that actually, in due diligence, we probably ought to be just make sure that we take a look at and make sure that we're doing right as council, to make sure we're following the rules, and we have a manager that's actually paying attention to make sure that we are. I think we ought to keep rolling with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does the charter actually require that for contracts? I thought that was just for borrowing.
I don't know. That's why I have a call out to the town attorney.
Check that, 'cause I understand that was for
The attorney's
borrowing
checking.
over 250,000, not for all contracts.
But yeah, Kristen's in and out this week sporadically, so like I said, I have an email out to her just to confirm.
That was good point. My belief. The charter is. Maybe I'm wrong.
It could be.
That
I
would be
thought it
helpful.
might have been actually just money we raised for taxation if it was over.
Just borrowing, because they don't want the council. They were worried about the council indebting the public when the council was created.
Would make it easier if that's the case. So.
Okay. And just for your information, like I said, that solid waste is going up to $85 a ton. I think the last time we had a contract with them that I could find we were at around 68 a ton, but it's been going up 2 to 4% per year, so we're right around 78, $80 a ton right now. So that'll be going up to 85. That's it for town manager's report.
Thank you.
Next item is council discussion on municipal interns.
PowerPoint? That's not my
We've
mouse.
got a PowerPoint here. The backstory on this is that I actually attended a Zoom presentation for this Maine government summer internship program. And the program is run by the University of Maine Extension. And, excuse me, and they had a couple of speakers there. I'm going to have to get rid of this frog in my throat. One of the speakers was Travis Roy, and I believe he is a town manager, either him or Jay. The next speaker was a town manager in, I think, Norwich Walk or somewhere. And the structure of this is that they offer internships to college students for summer experiences, and they work for 12 weeks in the summer. They work full-time in the summer, and They indicated that if we apply, anybody who wants to use an intern can apply and just describe what are projects that we would have the interns do. There was some questions about funding the intern, how the intern is funded. Jay Fegler, I don't know if he's on there, but we can look at this. I guess this is how you actually do the applications. They're due by March 1st, which doesn't give us a whole lot of time. But the idea of us having a summer intern, I thought it might be worth exploring and maybe applying for. You do have to pay them. They award 4 $3,000 grants to municipalities that commit to hiring an intern. So $2,500 is used to offset their salary, and $250 is the offset to the administrative fee that you pay, and $250 to offset any necessary training courses that you would have to give the intern. During the internship and for 1 year after, interns also receive a complimentary MMA student membership, which has nothing to do with us. But some people, they have a line item in their budget for the intern. Jay indicated it's a really good investment. You have to be really explain what you want to the interns, what you want done. For example, they were having issues. The program last year, some places had problems keeping them busy because these these college kids are on it. I mean, they said they work like steady at whatever your tasks are that you give them. And they were like, they had them for 12 weeks and they were done in like 3 weeks doing what they wanted them to do. So they were scrambling trying to find work for them to do. So it's important to make sure you have work for them to do. For an example, Jay Fagler from his town, they had a GIS program, and the intern went out and plotted all the cemetery, all those stones in the cemeteries, and correlated the names that's on the stone and exactly where it is. So you could go on their website of the town and just put a name in, and it will show you exactly where that grave is. There was like 8 cemeteries in that town, and they did all of them. There are 52 full-time paid summer internships. 15 of the interns are going to be in municipal government. It's 12 weeks of work at $15 an hour. And typically they're going to be supervised by whatever department they're working in. They also partner with the town also partners with a Maine career analyst, and interns can also participate in multiple factions in the government, whatever you decide you want them to do. So last year, grants were awarded to Bath, Holton, New Gloucester, and Winthrop. So I don't know if it's something that we want to do. I don't know if it's something that we have the work for them to do. I thought it was interesting and something that we could at least look at. But we're on the gun because the deadline is in a week.
Mr. Chair, I mean,
Sir.
one is there actually, do we have, I guess 2 things. One, do we actually have the need? And secondly, do we have the resources to be able to take care of an intern for that amount of time? And a couple of the questions is, while they're on staff, are we responsible for insurance or?
No, it's all covered by
That's all covered. So basically, we're just doing a flat $15 an hour stipend type.
$40 a week, $15 an hour for 12 weeks.
$7,200. $7,200.
72,
Minus their
3,000,
minus the
2,500.
2,500.
I mean, if you get the right person, you can get a lot of work done. It's probably worth the money. It just comes down to the idea of, do we have enough staff to actually set that up now to be productive in that short amount of time, or is this something we shoot for next year and
How
get
many
a...
vaults do we have that need to be?
We've been talking about it in the clerk's office because there's definitely a need for work to be done that can't be done on a daily basis. And so the vault is a really great place to start, and it would consume a large amount of time just in terms of studying the retention schedules, making sure that, we have boxes of things in there that have to be sorted through because previous departments may not have held to the retention schedules the way they needed to, and so they have to be sorted through so that we can make sure we're retaining records the way we should. And those include not just historical records and minutes and things like that, but also payroll records, human resources records, things like that. So it's sensitive, and there's a need for it, and it could be it could possibly be an internship that umbrellaed the town and would have rotate among departments, and because there's a need in multiple departments.
If we have the need and we have the resources, I think we try it. But it's just one of the things that really comes down to the idea of if we're ready and we can facilitate it, make it work. There's always something to be done, right? It's just a matter of being productive.
Yeah, we can solicit projects from department heads tomorrow at our meeting and plan to incorporate it in the budget if that's direction we want to go. Had interns in the past; they worked out great. I still keep in touch with some of them. They ask me for advice, but I don't know why. But
we've had interns. At first, we did struggle. The preparation, being prepared. Some of the department heads didn't do, enough work to be prepared. So the good news is we only started out with one, but as the following year we went to two. The year after that we went to three, and they do fantastic work. These college kids, they're very dedicated. At least I can only speak for the ones that were at our facility, and they really do good work. They review their work. They go to the managers and ask, if you like what they're doing, would you like to see me change? What would you like to see change? And they like to be graded every day, kind of thing, right? Communication. Hey, you did a great day today, and they like you to be honest too. If today wasn't, we kind of went a little backwards today, and this is the things we shouldn't have done, and this is what we should have done. They like that feedback because when they go back to school, they share it. It's a project from them. They actually bring it back to school and talk about their experience here.
They are great for projects, especially big projects.
Yeah.
And just from a personal standpoint, I'm going to say I distinctly remember doing internships when I was a college student, and they had a big impact on my college career and then my career as well. My very first internship was in town government.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Maine the college will partner as a career catalyst, and they also support the supervisor, whoever is going to be supervising them. So the college is there. The directors of the program are there to support the people that are running the interns for whatever they need.
Is this something you want to vote on?
So.
Or is this something?
I guess we can just incorporate it into the budget workshop and budget for it.
I would say that when we all have an idea of what it is and the cost. One of the other issues is housing, because they, if they don't live nearby, they're going to have to find a place to live. So that has been an issue with some of the people that spoke during the Zoom meeting. But I would say if you can find the need and think the need is there, we just got to get that application in because it's due March 1st.
Yeah, we can put the application in. I'll put it in the line item budget. And
There's no guarantee we're going to get it. It's competitive. So this isn't you apply it and you get it. So we're competing against probably whoever else is.
Of course we're going to get it.
I'll get it.
Yeah, why wouldn't we, right? Do they know who we are, right? It's all good.
So that's it. I thought it was great. I'm glad I attended it and wanted to present it. I talked with Lisa a little bit about it, and she seems to think she can use it. So if we can use it, $15 an hour,
Get a lot done.
They said you better. The thing is, have stuff for them to do because they're in that age and generation where they slow down. You can't, you got to restart them again. So
May I ask?
they said make sure you got work for them to do.
May I ask what the other interns were, or would it be? I mean, is there areas for like Parks and Recreation, law enforcement? I mean, what's the other areas?
Whatever we want, they'll
Really?
do whatever we want. I mean,
No,
they
I'm
had-
just saying there was 15 for town government. What are the other ones?
Oh! I think they were like power companies, like CMP, like if they're interested in the electrical field.
Manufacturing.
Yeah, like the utility companies, manufacturing.
Just saying.
Other.
I know there's other areas in town that an internship for the summer months wouldn't be a bad deal either. So, I mean, it's definitely a stepping stone if it works
Maybe
well.
you
We
can get one for business.
just thinking Parks and Rec and a lot of other areas, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you can if they're done your task. I mean, they can just
Jump over to the
jump
next.
into the next
absolutely,
task. I mean, we got them for 12 weeks if we get them.
Sounds good.
I'm sure you
They'll check into for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a link to the,
Got it all.
okay,
You
you
should
got
have
it,
everything
okay.
right there.
Good. Great.
And you might have it. I don't know if that's Peter. I don't know if that's who you contact there. But he might be able to direct you to the application and all that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
All right, if that's no more discussion, next item.
Next item is council goals discussion.
Okay.
Got a timeline when they're all going to be completed in the next 6 months.
So I put together, I used, Counselor Moore sent me the notes from, that everyone had sent to him. We put the notes in order by counselor goals, but then we consolidated them a little bit and put them in a bullet lists to make it a little easier to look at them as a whole.
I think realistically, you're just not going to get all of that, right? So I suggest that we pick something that we all agree on, that we can actually do a really good job and accomplish, and then at the end of the year, you see the results. I mean, there's a lot there. I'm not, just my opinion. I mean,
Are the goals in here?
The goals are in the packet, yes.
Put them up on the screen if you want.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, please, because I can't find
And I
it.
think I'd probably just kind of lean over to Glenn too. He's probably looked them over and see which ones seem more realistic and what he has the staff and resources to achieve. And
I like the half to 1 mil reduction. Did you fix
actually,
that?
I think that would need to take.
You didn't fix that? Okay, you got until the 22nd.
This is my first time going through the aggregated list, reviewing of committees. That seems reasonable and achievable. I know that there was some public comment about looking at some parts of the charter and stuff and where amendments need to be made, so that can be part of that discussion. The Public Safety Committee, I think, is something that you all need to form at some point. I
Yeah,
think,
that's going to be standing up real soon.
Okay, and I think that's actually a recommendation from the workers' comp policy too that'll help us get a
Nice,
little
yeah.
money
Well,
back.
I'll have to get with you and look at that and see if
What
they
is
have
the
any
process?
mandates in there.
What is the process as far as doing that? Is that just something that a structure's put together and it comes in front of council
Yeah,
and we vote on it?
we're gonna come up with some bylaws and a mission statement and
Make it happen?
make it happen. Yeah.
Public meeting room, that can be part of our regular budget process. I know Lisa's already reached out to Connectivity Point. Have they done a walkthrough yet, or are we waiting?
They did a walkthrough, and I was able to provide them with a diagram of the floor plan of the town building and the spaces. We looked at this room as a priority, especially for sound issues, and we looked at the training room and the council meeting room next door as secondary spaces, just thinking about growth and moving forward and the number of meetings we have by different groups at the same time. And so they're going to put together a quote for us that's a whole quote and a quote by steps, so we can incorporate it into the CIP if we need to.
Lisa, who's doing this?
Connectivity Point. They're right in Lewiston, Auburn area.
Yeah, I've worked with them before. They're pretty good. There's one other out there too that we can look at and get some comparable pricing, but I've worked with them in the past and they're solid. Communication process with the public. This is something internally that I've identified too. Now we have a full-time assistant town manager. We've now approved and updated our social media and press policies, so there's definitely some work that's already begun, and working with council to meet those goals I think is very achievable. Let's skip number 6. But no, we are working hard to do what we can for the taxpayer and be as lean as we can, and so we'll have those workshops on the 14th and the 18th, and we'll have those hard discussions.
Half a mil is 300 and something, right? Kayla?
Yeah.
Yes, half a mil is around 300,000.
Our yearly increase to the budget, uncontrollable, is almost $750,000 between the school and town. So just keep that in line. Without changing anything, that's just stuff we can't control.
Right.
Well, it's a goal.
It is.
Use town resources to improve residential opportunity, jobs, and housing. That's Ross's wheelhouse, and he's working hard every day. Probably one of the most optimistic folks on my staff. Public safety improvements. If you guys want to elaborate on that one a little bit more, I know we're working on the public safety committee. We've had the study done for the building, and we're working towards that. But if you have more tangible goals that you want to elaborate on, I'd be happy to enter them in here as well.
I don't know where they came from.
Was that a general consensus of multiple put into that category? Or?
Let me just take a quick peek. If you want to move to the next thing, I'll be able to tell if I just take a look here.
Financial stability of the town. I mean, as an administrator, I'm always looking to make things more efficient and more cost effective. That's part of, the majority of what I'm setting out to do. So hopefully we can continue doing that and effectively use town resources. And we are in a very financially stable position based on, just listening to what our finance director has told me since I've been here, and you're doing a good job replenishing your surplus and your fund balance, and good financial health picture from what I
think we're in a good place compared to where we've been in the past, right?
So review for compliance with state and federal laws. I know there's been, like I said, some discussion about charter policies. We just did some tonight. We just did an ordinance tonight, so it's ongoing. We're always going to be doing that, and working with council to achieve those goals. And then these are ongoing goals from last year to add more housing. I mean, that's something across the state. We're all experiencing that supply crunch and trying to do what we can to get more, affordable housing for folks. Public safety building, work on rejuvenating Lisbon Village. Personnel, step 1 of that was done tonight, and there's going to be more to come on those. Develop comprehensive description of services. We actually are in the middle of a big update to Civic Plus. I think our kickoff meeting for that is on the 23rd.
Thursday.
So residents are going to see improved digital resources, agenda management stuff. From the policy side too, you're going to have an easier way to manage the agendas, and so is the planning board and other committees. So we're really excited about that, and I'm also very excited that I have a clerk who's excited about that, because usually clerks are not excited about that.
I think a lot of that came, like as you mentioned, from last year with the budget, and even some of the discussions when some of the council was hired, was people asking, so what do we get for services for our tax dollar, and I think it's really hard to break that up in that piece of pie, because it gets to be very, very big, right? But the idea of having something on our website just that actually explains the services the town actually offers. I mean, it could be something So if someone asks a question, you have a direction and say, go here, and this is where it's listed. It's something that maybe just needs to be updated once a year or something, because it really don't change very much, but yet.
I think one of the things about the website being able to have information for people is having people here who know how to do what they need to do to make that happen. And we might have had a more gray area up till recently, but I'm used to maintaining websites, and Glenn's pretty IT savvy, way more than I am. And so I think, that sort of trickles out to the rest of the departments, and I see us having a stronger handle on it than we have in the past.
Yeah, and
I think we just redid it, but is our website already
No, we
just
didn't.
outdated?
No, you know what we did? We went out for an RFP, but we never revamped it because of the cost. So it was a cut.
When was this? Like
This was quite a few, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little longer.
so that our web design right now is quite antiquated.
So you're on something called Virtual Towns and Schools, which Civic Plus bought back in 2017. I was on it and familiar with the platform. They've been pushing to migrate folks to their newer platform. It's a steep cost, though. You're looking at 30 to 50 grand probably just to have them bring you to their new platform. And, it's one of those things that we'll evaluate in the CIP and the budget process. And, is it something that we need to do right now? Is it something we should do in the short term? Or, can we get by? And are we doing a disservice to our residents the way it is now? We've already kind of started the process of doing an audit to make sure, the website is up to date with accurate information. If it's, we've had some turnover. I mean, I found a couple things where just phone extensions were wrong because there's just been turnover and transition. We fixed those. But Tiffany and Melanie are going to kind of do an audit of each page, and I think some departments do a really good job of keeping their stuff up to date, but there are others who maybe could use a push in the right direction and kind of just a more user-friendly way of reading a government website, which usually is folks see as like a repository of information rather than a clean navigable experience. So I think we have enough skills in-house to kind of make that a cleaner, nicer experience.
Is there any clicker on the site at all to see how many people actually visit or look at it? And it's probably not overwhelming then, probably.
So they have Google Analytics tied to it. I don't remember the link that Civic Plus has in there. We can reach out to them and get it. So.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if.
Yeah, you can get that information. I use that information to eliminate the old quarterly newsletter we did because we would get 8 views, I think, a year on it, and it would take department heads 2 weeks to put together. So for 8 views, that got the axe. Continue to identify housing needs and collateral issues, and that's something that's ongoing. But if you want to articulate more on those goals, we'd be happy to update that too.
And the question about the public safety, that was from Councilor Robichaux's notes, to ensure public safety through our town manager and his department heads. And maybe that was in line with the other public safety information, but I might not have realized that. Okay.
Okay, plenty of work for us to do. Mark?
Get to work.
Get to work.
Okay.
Glenn, just to go back, just a comment on the idea about the quarterly report. And I kind of remember when that was actually put together. And one of the things that was to do is to kind of subsidize the idea of not having department heads come in every quarter and talk to council what they're actually up to and stuff. The idea of not having a report is fine, but I'm just.
Oh, no, I was referencing my previous town.
Oh, previous,
not here. I didn't know you guys did a quarterly report.
Well, we do like the monthly. I'm not sure. That's what I was wondering, number-wise. How many people we actually give people?
I used to it would take weeks to do my quarterly newsletter and then put it all out and blast it out and find out 8 people read it. So
Yeah, I know our department heads right now work on the idea of putting out a monthly report, right? I'm just curious how many people look at it, that's all, but.
We can get the numbers.
Yeah. Because it is always nice to have them come up front of us and explain what they're doing. That's always a good time, so.
Cool. All right, any more discussion?
No, that's good stuff.
Good.
I think plenty of goals to work towards, right? So.
Yep.
So the next item is appointments. So I put a memo in the packet for you. So it turns out that the Lisbon Development Committee is the only committee that has in its bylaws that the council has to vote on their council liaison. So it's normally done in February, so we're not behind schedule or anything like that. But this is just to confirm the appointment for Councillor Lunt as the council liaison, and then also opens up the opportunity to appoint a secondary council liaison if you'd like.
So we need a motion to actually approve them, to keep them on. I'll make that motion.
A second?
Second.
No discussion?
This is to appoint Councilor Lunt.
To confirm the appointment of Councillor Lunt as liaison for the council to LDC.
Okay. Call for a vote.
Councillor Kane?
Yes.
Councillor Fellows?
Yes.
Councillor Keller?
Yes.
Councillor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Councillor Lunt?
Yes.
Councillor Moore?
Aye.
Councillor Robichaud?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed. Vote 7-0. And did you want to consider a second? You don't have to have a secondary liaison, but you can have one if there's someone who wants to be.
You have a couple council members who are already.
Yeah, I thought there was a question about how many, at one point in time, how many council people that actually could be.
The secondary liaison would be the person who would go to a meeting if the
If Mark
liaison
wasn't.
couldn't.
If he wasn't
Right.
going.
Mark's available all the time, so I think we're good.
Any volunteers for it? I guess we're good with Mark then.
But if the interesting,
Hold it.
the interesting
Wait, hang on.
thing about it, no,
Hang on a minute.
the interesting thing about it is it says, I believe the bylaws say there can be 2 council members on the LDC, and then the liaison is outside of that, so. I think, how many are there? There's 2 councilors as members on it now,
Mhm.
right? So,
Right.
I don't know why we would need a secondary, but anyway.
Just in case I can't be there, I guess.
And you can't be there, so. We have a volunteer. Do we have to vote?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
So the motion is to,
The motion
Approve.
is to appoint Councillor Keller as secondary council liaison to the LDC.
call the vote.
Who was the second on that?
Me.
Thank you. Councillor Kane?
Yes.
Councillor Fellows?
Yes.
Councillor Keller?
Yes.
Councillor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Councillor Lunt?
Yes.
Councillor Moore?
Aye.
Councillor Robichaud?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed, 7-0. All right. The next item is Councillor Communications.
Any communications?
I'm good at the
Oh,
moment.
I just wanted to say it's 81 degrees and we're having a flood warning, so I'm gonna get flooded out here, and I know you all are sympathetic. On the other hand, I'm really, really looking forward to the March 18th workshop at 3:30 in the morning, so.
Don't stay up too late.
And my catering will be done by Zippy's out here, an island-wide, statewide chain. Today, by the way, is, as you probably know, for you, it's coming to an end, is Fat Tuesday. Tomorrow begins Lent. But in Hawaii, it's not Fat Tuesday, it's Malasada Day. So it's eat all the sweets you want and then some. And for those of you who don't know what malasadas are, they're like a big round Portuguese donut that somehow got started over here many centuries ago.
They're like fried doughs.
Malasadas.
Nice.
Note that
It's
he has
called
to
malasadas.
join us at 3:30 in the morning the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else from anybody, I have something. I would like to invite 3 councilors to join me to serve lunch at LCS on March 3rd at 10:30 in the morning. So if anybody who wants to come with me to serve the lunch at Lisbon Community School on March 3rd at 10:30, let me know.
You can put me on.
You can have 2 counselors join you, sir.
Excuse me?
You can only have 2 counselors join you.
Oh, we're at separate times, though.
Okay.
Third? March 3rd, Friday at 10:30 in the morning. Ray?
I'll do it.
Okay,
What's
I'll
that?
do it.
Joe Jean? Do I hear third?
Obligation.
We'll deal with 2. Thanks, guys. LCS Friday the 3rd, 10:30.
Do you know what you're serving yet?
Pizza.
Nice.
That's easy.
So you make sure you don't give one and eat one. Give one and eat one. 'Cause I know how you do it.
I was thinking give one, eat 2.
All right, so I'll let them know that we're good to go on the 3rd.
Jeez. I get
Next
hungry.
item.
Audience participation and response for new items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues not on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Good evening, Ross Cunningham, Economic Development. I have to first stand up and say there are lots of lovely places to get lunch in Lisbon, so please don't think there's nowhere to get lunch in
Just on
Lisbon,
Saturday.
including Little River Coffee, which does have sandwiches and lovely seating. Just a quick couple updates. I want to let you know that over the next month, on 2 different occasions, we have large groups of about 50 folks coming to town. The first one is on March 3rd. There's a group that's statewide called Leadership Maine, run by the Maine Development Foundation. And they tour communities and learn about how things are happening in their community. They are coming to Lisbon on the 3rd, spending the day to learn about some things, tour some of our local businesses, and spend some time talking to us about the changes we've made in the last 10, 15 years and sort of talk up Lisbon and have a good event there. Second one is that the National Main Street Conference is happening in Boston this year. And the folks from Wyoming, when they go to the national conference, they spend the day before going to communities in the area. They are visiting Biddeford, Bath, Brunswick, and Lisbon on the Saturday before the conference. So we'll have an afternoon with those folks from Wyoming, learn about what they're doing, and share some stories about what we're doing here. So just want to let you know that if you see buses of people coming around town, that's going to be on the 3rd, and then again, I think on the 25th, March 25th. So just a heads up.
That sounds really cool. Thank you. I guess there's no more. Next item.
Next item is executive session. Order 2023-35 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 4056C, the acquisition of real property or economic development.
Make a motion to go in?
Second.
Counselor Kane.
Yes.
Counselor Fellows.
Yes?
Counselor Keller.
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle.
Yes.
Counselor Lunt.
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed 7-0. And do you think you'll have a vote when you come out of session?
I don't know why we're going in.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys can go home.
But maybe.
All right.
Maybe?
No, we can always do it.
We can always go another time.
All right.
Ross, you probably have to join the Zoom so Don can see what you're.
Well, so I don't know if I can do that. I was going to email him a copy of my presentation.
I can put the thing up if you have it. Just make sure
Is there any
your
prep time? Be
microphone
here
is
early
off
or
on the laptop.
10:30.
Just 10:30.
But I don't know how to.
That's what they